We're interrupting your usual browsing, ladies and gentlemen, for something so bizarre, unbelievable, and deliciously messy that you might want to double tap that screen to make sure it's genuine. Because Papoose showed up right after we thought. The internet could take no more drama following Remy Ma's purported acceptance of Eazy the Block Captain's full-fledged Instagram proposal. In addition to being mature, healing, and living a kind life, Papoose also shared a picture of Olympic boxer Claressa Shields, the knockout Barbie herself, with a love music playing and a face collision expression. "I love you," the caption said, and guess what? It was reposted by Claressa. Is a response rather than merely a rebound. Let's begin then. Before the internet could comprehend that insane moment, Papoose revealed something that nobody had anticipated. Claressa Shields stood behind him while Faith Evans played "I Love You" in the background. Remy Ma had said yes on Instagram to a man who isn't her husband, not to mention the timeline. Days before Remy Ma reposted Eazy the Block Captain's love poem disguised as a birthday wish, he used phrases like "mirror partner peace" and said, "I owe you for that." That's not a message, that's a marriage application. This wasn't a casual link-up. It wasn't a simple repost. It wasn't a "oh, we bumped into each other backstage." This was framed. This was romantic lighting. That closed body positioning. That perfectly selected R&B throwback. This wasn't random. This was retaliation. Reposted it, no denial, no explanation. No, we're just friends, and the public verified it. 2 days later, Papoose, who had been silent since the start of this mess, posted Claressa in the same format, with no caption, just "I love you" playing softly while she's learned in smiling and glowing, and he reposted her story as well. It's a quiet, deliberate surgery, and nobody is saying a word, but everything is being said. People went into a full-blown meltdown, with comment sections on Twitter threads exploding back-to-back like mixtapes. Some accused Papoose of being messy, while others referred to it as the most elegant clapback ever. When the internet attempted to spin an old photo of Claressa, Papoose attempted to make it seem as though something had been going on forever, but Claressa immediately clapped back, saying, "I was 15 in that picture." Claressa is no stranger to headlines, but this is the first time she has been in one like this. "Stop fooling with me, all of you." Mic dropped, case closed. She didn't want anyone to alter the facts, and to be honest, she didn't need to provide an explanation beyond the fact that she maintained that silence between when he posted a woman with no caption or disclaimer and the words "I love you" in the background. Papoose knew exactly what he was doing. He has devoted half of his career to the brand of black love, so when he posts a woman with no caption or disclaimer and "I love you" in the background, he's not experimenting. Rather, he's announcing that was a soft launch for the loudest moment of his personal life ever. This is the same man who once wrote an entire verse complimenting Remy for keeping it down while incarcerated. Then came the last push because late that night, after the reposts went viral, Remy posted something too, but it wasn't a picture, but rather a black screen story, white text, and one of those uncertain philosophical quotes, you know the type. Loyalty is a choice. Silence is protection. Real love doesn't need validation. Boom. Now the fans were really losing it. Was it a slight on Claressa? Was it about Papoose? Or was it just a coincidence? All of the theories fueled the fire, but some fans noticed something even stranger. Remy had stopped following Claressa. Yes, that unfollow button was clicked quietly. No announcement was made, just finished. Let's be clear though, that doesn't happen by accident. Celebrities don't just slip and unfollow people they've been cool with, especially not in the midst of a scandal. It's silent, it's planned, it's controlled, and it's louder than any diss track because Instagram stories go away after a day, but the screenshots, the reactions, and the emotional damage are permanent. So here we are, Remy posting love, Eazy responding, Remy reposting, and then Papoose dropping Claressa. Claressa reposting, Remy unfollowing, and now we're all sitting here wondering if we're witnessing the end of a 10-year love story or the beginning of something even messier. But this is only part 1 because the internet is taking sides like it's a season finale, and nobody is speaking. There was no press release, no captions, just a digital middle finger that said, "You're not in my circle anymore." People were zooming in and reloading their follow lists every 5 minutes while screen recording. But the internet doesn't do quiet. This wasn't just a romantic moment. It was an operation, and the next step in that operation changes everything. This is where things really start to spiral out of control because the moment that unfollow happened, everything changed from public speculation to personal confirmation quietly. DMs started sharing screenshots of conversations that might or might not be authentic when the rumors started to spread. One friend of a friend claimed that Papoose had been emotionally distant for months, while another said that Remy had been caught off guard. Of course, none of this could be verified, but in the age of digital tea, vibes are more important than facts, and the feeling was that something important had happened behind closed doors. Next came the voice memos. A popular gossip website released an alleged voice memo from someone claiming to be in Papoose's circle. Don't get it twisted, he's done. The internet went down, the comment sections were ablaze, and everyone had an opinion. He simply didn't mess it up like Remy did. He kept it classy. Claressa was about to put an end to both of their professions while Pap was at home making dinner. The brand drama started after Pap moved stealthily and came out with a trophy because, you know, when your personal life gets nasty, the money starts to feel it. When a very quiet, unexpected surprise is made, sponsorships start to worry and influencers start to pull away in case something goes wrong. However, the timing couldn't have been more suspicious. 3 days before the revelation, she and Papoose were photographed together, seemingly during the campaign season. A fitness sponsor allegedly dumped her as soon as the Instagram story became popular, according to one theory, and Papoose was given a part on a reality show, but turned it down because he didn't want to turn it into a circus. But there was nothing but chaos, no declarations, no confirmations. Lastly, and maybe most unexpectedly, Remy went live, albeit for a mere 5 minutes. The timing, the delivery, and the underlying sadness in her voice, it wasn't shade, it was heartbreak disguised as strength, were what made it twisted, because followers spotted something else that Papoose tweeted shortly after the live finished. No one knew if it was about Papoose, Claressa, or even Eazy. His feed caption was only one word: grateful for peace. She didn't mention the post, didn't name anyone, and didn't even directly address the matter. It wasn't a tale or a selfie. Then there was conflict. Relationships weren't the only thing at stake this time. Control, image, and who would speak up for the high path were also important factors. Papoose's post suggested freedom, while Remy's life suggested treachery. He started publishing fan edits of him and Remy as though they were a reality TV relationship. After Claressa fell silent, the video then surfaced. A behind-the-scenes video of Claressa and Papoose laughing offstage was shared by someone at the Power 106 event. It wasn't neutral, but it wasn't really romantic either. People started pointing it out. This was no longer a flex, a clapback, or a rebound. Rather, it was likely the result of two people silently constructing something while the internet quarreled over posts and reposts. Now that Bond had a name, a song, a storyline, and a highly public debut, the societal response was something that nobody had anticipated because it was about more than just relationships. It was about loyalty, legacy, and image. Papoose was more than just a rapper. He was the embodiment of Black love and supported Remy through his trial, incarceration, career pauses, and comebacks. Since he was her first, witnessing him go out with a new person, regardless of how clean, videos of previous interviews that evoked recollections of Remy and Papoose memorable events from years past, such as their anniversary postings, birthday, shoutouts, and the occasion he surprised her on stage with a necklace that said "Forever," were being shared by people. But was that actually the case? Because nobody could verify if Remy and Papoose were legally divorced. Other than rumors, unfollows, and smoldering timelines, There was no statement, no divorce filing, and no confirmation of anything. What did people do? Speculation is the lifeblood of the internet. They posted footage of Remy posting to fill in the blanks. Simple, Claressa with Papoose, Ray's live, and Papoose's caption. People were examining it like detectives, figuring out the exact time of song lyrics and correlating clothing to places. Even though they were now forensic analysts and no longer fans, the commotion continued without anybody speaking, which made matters worse because people make up answers when they don't get them. One comment even stated that all four of them were spotted at the same event, while another post stated that Remy and Claressa had been cool for years and that Eazy and Papoose had once been booked at the same event, and there was tension. 2 months earlier at the same restaurant. There are only feelings, and they were strong, without any evidence. But everything was shattered by what transpired next. Someone shared a direct message saying that Claressa and Papoose were discreet for a minute before becoming public out of respect for Remy's initial actions, according to an insider in the mutual sector. If the leak was genuine, there was a silent battle of pride and love, a series of chess moves, and Papoose didn't simply go on, so that sentence struck a new chord. He chose to wait and observe instead, and when the moment arrived, he shared one song, one repost, one anecdote, and if you think that was a deliberate move, wait till part 3. Because that's when everything comes crashing down. He knew precisely what he was doing. The damage was already done, whether or not the DM leak was genuine. The internet simply required authorization, and with that message lingering through time like a ghost with receipts, the story was set in stone. Claressa became a symbol, a chess piece, and a headline in a plot that was once about loyalty but was now about legacy. But Papoose didn't move on. He retaliated. Let's discuss what caused the brand to fail. Papoose and Remy Ma were not just a couple. They were black love in the flesh and a model. They built a solid reputation for tenacity, selflessness, and enduring hardships. If you don't hold me down like Papoose held Remy, they meant it, ladies remarked. This is what happens when black love's face disappears. As a result, YouTubers produced 40-minute in-depth analyses, and websites started to grab old clips with very emotive music. The creators started to wonder if it was just branding or if we ever really knew them. Then came the Eazy stans, who spoke of how Remy had at last found someone who didn't dwell on her past, who genuinely saw her and who celebrated her. Naturally, Claressa's supporters jumped in with arguments that she is a grown woman, she didn't ask for any of this, and she isn't involved in anyone's drama. The frightening aspect about survival is that people began taking sides. It was now controversial rather than merely chaotic. Her comments were inundated with combat rap lines that felt like foreshadowing, and Remy's filthy mob dubbed her clout-chasing, selfish, and uncaring. Suddenly, people were sad for the time, the years, the loyalty, and the belief that Papoose stood with Remy through court dates, tours, babies, and music. They built together, fought together, lost together, and won together. This idea that perhaps we weren't watching a war but rather a funeral resonated more strongly than any quote, story, or unfollow. However, a fresh query that emerged amid all of that online mayhem altered everything. What if Papoose hadn't posted Claressa out of retaliation? In a slideshow of passive-aggressive reposts and Instagram stories, all of that was melting away. We requested privacy during this trying period, and there was no final statement or press release. The industry doesn't wait, so even though the stillness was heavy, it didn't linger long. All of this occurred in the same week that a prominent podcast teased a sit-down interview with a female rapper. Her face was blurry. Her voice shifted, and the subject turned to her encounter with a man who wasn't who he seemed, deep within. The Black Love brand. That voice made the streets think, that's Remy. The podcast just released the teaser without confirming or denying. Now, whether it was true or not didn't even matter because it fueled the hypothesis, the cycle, and the desire for a villain. When the news emerges, people need someone to point the finger at, and all of a sudden, the heartache turns into satisfaction. Creators, pundits, and even other rappers who threw in subliminals started to profit from them. One even released a song called Faith Evans' Blow, which was directed at the media and wasn't subtle. With the exception of one music executive who requested anonymity, they began reaching out to managers, acquaintances, and previous partners, but no one answered. Got rocky, but it might be the last time it gets rebuilt, and Papoose didn't post Claressa again. That one post, that one song, that one vibe, and then he disappeared. People speculated that it might have backfired, or perhaps he didn't. Claressa Shields remains silent in the background, posting no likes or comments, just training videos and workout routines, and going about her business as usual. This professionalism and silence only encouraged more conversation, either peace or strategy, no one could tell. We don't know, but we do know that the public saw what they were supposed to see. Two people who had previously stood on stages together now stood on opposite sides of a timeline. There were no words, only music posts, reposts, silence, and all. Perhaps it was never meant to look like a rollout. Perhaps he said what he needed to say once and never again. And this brings us to the quiet, unresolved part of the situation because, despite all the noise, none of it really addressed the question of whether Remy and Eazy were real, whether it was a rebound romance, whether Claressa was the new chapter, or whether it was just a statement. Perhaps they owed us nothing. Maybe they shared too much. Maybe the brand grew too big. Maybe the love was lost under the weight of expectations. But one thing is for sure, when Black Love fell, it didn't go quietly. It went viral. Now that the internet has moved on to the next story, the people who experienced it are still in silence. As the dust settles and the stories begin to fade, we're left wondering why it happened this way, not what happened, but why two people who built a brand on love ended up using emojis and reposts. Why did fans have to piece it together from quotes and unfollows? The loudest era of hip-hop love ended in whispers and faded to black, and now that reposts have become weapons, silence has become headlines, and Instagram stories have replaced press conferences. We have seen the posts, the quotes, the unfollows, the reposts, and the quiet dogs, but we haven't seen what happened, the part we never get to see until one of them decides to speak, if they ever do. What do you think? Was this love developing or failing? Did Papoose truly move on, or was he just showing Remy how it feels? Did Claressa step into something real, or just step into a war zone, and did Remy ultimately choose chaos? No one has seen the truth behind the timelines, so leave your theories in the comments below. Who do you think played it smooth, who fumbled, and who just exposed the whole Black Love brand for what it really was? We don't just sip tea in this house. We stir and shake it, and when it spills, we catch every drop so we can see you in the next one. If you're new here and this is your first time following us down the rabbit hole, hit the subscribe button.